this morning with the sunrise in my eyes. My rock sweeter, beneath the one I love. I don't know how, don't know why, I've been toasting all my life. Oh, it's sweeter. I've been toasting all my life.
Welcome to Phillip Island, Victoria in Australia. What a setting we have for this great sporting contest, the Little Penguin Sea to Dune race. Nervous moments always as they gather on the beach, the tension mounting, and away they go. There's the defending champion, wearing his familiar navy blue and white, great waddling style. Another pre-race favourite though, losing touch with the pack. Maybe that's why. A few too many fish in the day's feeding. There's a familiar face, Skip McIntyre, 8 times a champion back in the 90s, a very successful coach now, keeping a keen eye on proceedings. This the leading group, 1 or 2 still able to put on a show for the camera, others just ploughing straight over it. Some resorting to shortcuts. Sad that cheating has crept into this beautiful sport. The judges will have a look at that. But up at the front, the pace is relentless, closing in on those sand dunes that will offer a bed for the night. The fatigue starting to tell. Who's got the finishing kick up on the outside? What a turn of pace from that one, whichever one it is. No answer from the rest, and he takes victory. What a win. There we are, into the Burrow, building an extension with his winnings, and back tomorrow to try and defend his title here on Phillip Island.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another night of live Penguin TV. My name is Megan, and I'm going to be talking to you about all things penguin as we watch the world's smallest species of penguin, our little penguins coming out of the water, crossing the beach, and heading back to their burrows here on Phillip Island in Victoria, Australia. Tonight, I'm joined by Michael. Michael, come on in and let us know what you'll be doing tonight.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for watching. I'll be checking out the YouTube and the Facebook pages, so get your questions ready for Megan. Try and, think of the hardest questions that we can give Megan, or give her a bit of a challenge tonight. Anything that you would like to know, we'll definitely try our best to answer it. So thanks for watching.
We definitely will. Thank you, Michael. So like Michael said, he'll be looking through all of your beautiful questions and comments. So send through any questions you might have on Facebook and YouTube, and Michael is going to try and give me the hardest ones. I think that's what he always aims to do, is to try and find something that I don't know. And there's definitely things I don't know. So ask anything you want to know about the Penguins, and we will do our very best. This is our last night for another week, so we'll try our best to get through as many questions as we can. And if we don't get through to your question on Facebook, we will have Rangers going through all the comments on Facebook and answering your questions within the next 24 hours. We don't have that capacity on YouTube, unfortunately, so we'll do our best to get to as many of your questions as we can tonight. And if we don't answer your question tonight, you can tune in again tomorrow night or the next night and see if we do answer your question. If you do watch each night, if you're one of our regular Wattle watchers, you're probably already a Penguin expert. And if it is your first time watching, welcome, and I'm sure you'll know hopefully lots about Penguins by the end of tonight. Now, we are joining you from Phillip Island, and we're looking out over the beautiful Sunlands Beach. You can see our viewing stands have lots of lovely people here waiting to watch our little penguins. And I don't think we've had any penguins sighted just yet. I'll just scroll across so we can look out along the southern coastline of Phillip Island. And all of this land, it is also known as Millau, and these are the traditional lands of the Bunurong. So the Bunurong were the first people here on Millau, and they looked after these lands for many thousands of years before European settlement, and cared for them, took only what they needed, and lived very sustainably, coming here in only spring and summer to feed on things like shellfish and short-tailed shearwater birds that migrate here each year. So I would like to acknowledge the Bunurong and their elders past, present and emerging as the traditional custodians of the land that we're joining you from tonight. And I would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the lands that any of you are joining us from tonight. And do let us know in the comments where you're joining us from. And if you know the names of your traditional custodians, put them in the comments as well. And let us know whose country you're on and acknowledge those traditional custodians. It is really important, and we like to make sure we do that each and every night here at the Penguin Parade. And all of this country we're looking out onto, this entire southern coast of Millau, is managed by Phillip Island Nature Parks. And that's who we are. So we are a non-for-profit organisation protecting our nature and wildlife through education, research and conservation. So we do look after this coastline that we're looking out onto. You can see Pyramid Rock out in there in the distance, Cape Woolmai right down to the other end of the island, and we're up on the Sunland Peninsula. So along this peninsula we have about 32,000 little penguins in this penguin colony that we look after. Off the end of the peninsula, we also have a colony of about 20,000 Australian fur seals that we manage. We also have our Koala Conservation Reserve, Churchill Island Heritage Farm, and many beautiful beaches, wetlands and woodlands that we're lucky enough to manage here at Phillip Island Nature Park. So we do want to see all of you back here as soon as possible. As you can see, we've already been able to welcome lots of lovely Australians and visitors back here to the Penguin Parade and to our Koala Reserve and Churchill Island, and soon we'll be able to welcome people back to the Nobby Centre. So we do want to see everyone back here as soon as possible, because if you buy a ticket to any of our sites, you are contributing to that education, research and conservation work. So all of our profits go right back into protecting our nature and our wildlife here on Millau. And that goes for if you buy a souvenir, and you can also make a donation to the Penguin Foundation. So you can adopt a penguin, become a penguin pal, and that money goes back into our conservation work as well. And the penguins will well, thank you for it. You can even get a little stuffed penguin. You can name a penguin if you do want to become a penguin pal. It would make a great Christmas present for someone who has it all. They don't have a penguin. You can adopt a penguin for them. And speaking of, I'm looking out into the ocean and I'm trying to have a look and see if I can spot any penguins. And we do have a nice new big screen here tonight, so I'm hoping that I will be able to see them before you guys, but you might spot them before me. If you do see any penguins out in the water, let us know in the comments. And if you haven't watched before, what we're looking for out on the surface of the ocean is a raft of penguins. So they look like a black line floating on the surface. And that's the little penguins' heads bobbing out of the water as they're looking up to the horizon where our camera is located. And it's a little bit choppy, it's a bit hard to see tonight, so I don't think I can see any rafts. But have a good look, let us know if you spot one. We're looking for a black line on the surface. And we do have Ranger Heather, who many of you might know, who is counting tonight. So if she sees a raft coming in, she will let us know and we'll be able to hopefully look for that raft of penguins. So I do hope they don't catch us by surprise, because it is a little bit difficult to spot them out on the water tonight. And if you were down here on the beach or one of our viewing stands, you might even be able to hear those penguins before you spot them, because when they're out there in those rafts, they are making what we call a hucking noise. So they're going huck, 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 talking to each other, grouping together, kind of saying, hey guys, are we ready? Do we want to swim in? Do we want to cross the beach? Grouping together. So you might have seen that in the comments, everyone hucking, calling out to each other. That's the noise that the penguins will be making right now as they form those groups and get ready to come into shore. And they are waiting just until it gets a little bit darker, because what we're watching tonight, those penguins journey across the beach back to their burrows, it is the most dangerous part of the penguins' day. So we do like to call it their dangerous dash across the beach. So they are waiting until it gets dark because they're concerned about big birds of prey. So not these little birds on the beach, these guys are some masked lapwings. They're not going to bother the penguins. The penguins are concerned about things like Pacific gulls, sea eagles, swamp harriers. And there was a Pacific gull on the beach earlier. I'll have a bit of a look and see if it's still hanging around. Let's see, what have we got down here? We do have some silver gulls, and another masked lapwing, which is good. We don't want to have those Pacific gulls down on the beach because they will be one of the predators of our penguins. It's still a little bit light out, so they might still be hanging around, so the penguins are on the lookout, looking for any of those birds of prey, and that's why they'll be so cautious when they're coming out of the water and crossing the beach. If they do see a bird fly overhead, it will usually give them a fright, and they'll run right back into the water. But once they do come out after sunset, most of those birds of prey, it's too dark for them to hunt, so they should go to roost for the night, and that's when it is safest for our little penguins to cross the beach. And they are very well camouflaged, very hard to see when they're in the water, as you guys can see tonight. Actually, that might be a raft out there. I'm just going to zoom in because I thought I saw a black line on the surface. It could have just been a wave, but I'll make sure. I think that is a raft of penguins. Let me zoom in a little bit more, see how close we can zoom. There we go. Can you see that little disturbance kind of on the surface of the water? Oh, it's moving around a bit. Our camera's a little bit wobbly tonight, I'm sorry for that, but you might be able to see the little disturbance, those little penguin heads popping out of the water, looking up towards us. You can just make out their little black chins. So normally when they're out there all day, they spend about 80% of their time out at sea, diving up and down, looking for food. These penguins probably have been out there for a day or a few days, but they can spend a week, a month, even a few months out at sea. And that's what these guys are really good at. So they do have what we call counter coloration. So all of the penguins' back is blue, even the tops of their beak and bottoms of their feet. So when they're floating there normally, they're looking down, looking for food, and their blue back blends in really well with the surface of the ocean. And we can see them a bit better tonight because they're in a group and they're looking at us. So we can see their little white chins because all of their front, all of their bellies, the bottoms of their beak, tops of their feet are all white, all pale in colour, so that if you look up at a penguin from below the water, their little white bellies blend in with the sky. So they're really well protected and really quick and agile when they're out in the ocean. And you'll see tonight when they come up onto the beach, they're definitely not quick or agile, and they are quite conspicuous. They're quite easy to see. So that's why they're so vulnerable for predators when they do come up onto land. But they are quite good at avoiding those natural predators, waiting until it gets dark and coming in these groups for safety in numbers as they come across the beach. And they have adapted to these predators over thousands of years, but they aren't used to some introduced predators that we have had here on Phillip Island. So we have had problems with cats and foxes. So any land-based predator that's out at night time is something that our penguins don't know how to deal with. They don't know how to avoid it. So they are quite vulnerable to those introduced predators. So one thing we have done here on Phillip Island to protect our little penguins and all of our wildlife is we have managed to eradicate foxes. So it's taken many, many years and a lot of work and effort from all of the rangers here. But our fox eradication program has successfully eradicated foxes on Phillip Island. And a lot of that work was done with a couple of little fox dogs called Sam and Jazz, who were able to sniff out those foxes so that they could be found and removed. And our penguins are doing incredibly well now without those introduced predators. And the next thing we are working to remove here on Phillip Island to protect our wildlife is feral cats. So any cats that don't have an owner and might be out getting up to mischief, harming our native wildlife. We are working on reducing their numbers and encouraging anyone who has a cat, if you have a cat, keep it contained to your property, keep it indoors, especially at night time, and make sure it's desexed so it doesn't contribute to that feral cat population. And that's one small thing we can do to protect our wildlife, including our little penguins. And it looks like they're getting closer now. They are keeping us waiting tonight. And I'm sure you're all waiting, actually. I've gotten a little bit distracted. I'm sure you all want to know how many penguins we had come in last night. Last night they came in a lot earlier, about 10 minutes earlier than the time it is now. So I don't know what these guys are doing, keeping us waiting. And how many penguins did we have last night, Michael?
Yep, so we had 1,470 penguins, and they came in at 8:29. I think the tide was a bit higher last night, so
yeah.
And it was seemed to be a bit darker too, I think.
Yeah, it's quite dark tonight, but it must have been even darker and stormier last night. We did have a lot of rain and stormy weather last night, so it must be a little bit brighter tonight. And how many was it again, that number?
1,470.
1,470. It's a good number. If you watched last night and you tried to guess how many there were, see if you got close to 1,470 penguins. Very good number. So Michael was saying that the tide was in a little bit higher last night. It was a little bit darker, and that makes our penguins feel safer. Tonight it is a little bit brighter. There's less clouds. The tide's a little bit further out, so it's brighter and they have further to walk, which means that they're going to take a little bit longer to cross the beach. And these guys definitely are looking cautious. They're slowly making their way up to shore. They look like they could come out any minute, but they are on the lookout for anything that might give them a fright. So when they do come up onto shore, they could very well run right back into the water if they're not feeling safe. And we do have Heather up in the skybox with a pair of binoculars watching this group as we speak, waiting for them to come out of the water and to cross the beach. And once they get more than halfway across the beach, that's when Heather will start our penguin count. So if you want to try and help Heather out, you can try and count this little group of penguins. This one doesn't look like it will be too difficult to count if you want to try your hand at penguin counting. If you want to see if you have what it takes to come work with us here at the nature parks and become a penguin counter, it's definitely not an easy job. You can see some of them are already running back. They're not quite sure. So Heather will be waiting till they go halfway across the beach when they're not going to run back. So she won't be counting them just yet. It's quite challenging when they're still coming in and out of the water. Some brave penguins might start to walk, some scared penguins might run back, they might not even stay in their group, or they're all running back. And it is still a little bit light out, so they're going to be extra cautious, having a look out for any birds flying overhead. So even if one of those masked lapwings were to fly off, it would probably give those penguins a little bit of a fright. It looks like they're getting up onto the beach again. Come on, little guys, you can do it. You have to send Heather all of your love, all of your luck with counting tonight, and maybe send these penguins a little bit of encouragement. Help them feel a little bit safer crossing this beach. They look like they're starting to build up the courage. It is looking quite dark now, so hopefully they're feeling nice and safe. And while we're waiting for these little guys, we might grab a question. I hope you've all been sending through all of your fantastic questions to Michael. I'll see if he has one for me.
Yep, seeing as you were just talking about Heather and the penguin counting, someone just wants to know, so what methodology do we use to count? You know, do we use a ticker, or, you know, how sophisticated is our penguin counting technology?
Ooh, that's a good question. So our penguin counting technology, it isn't all that fancy, to be honest, because we have been counting these penguins since 1968. We don't want to change our methods too much because we want to keep the data consistent so it can be compared over all of those years. So what Heather is doing right now, she has her binoculars and she's counting this group, and she'll count the whole group, then she'll write down the number. And there are 5 pathways along the beach, so she will have a column on her little count sheet for each group of penguins, and she will write that down on her sheet. We also have an app on a little iPad, so she might write on the sheet, or she might use our app and type that number in, depending on what she wants to use, or she'll put all the data into the app later on. We just started trying to use this app because what it will actually do is when we put in each number, it will tell us what time that group of penguins crosses, which is something we haven't been recording in the past. So that's something we want to try and get information about, to see over what time maybe most of our penguins come in. But here we go, they're more than halfway now. So Heather will be counting this group. Let us know how many you think is in this group. It doesn't look like many. I'm not going to try and count them, but it's maybe, I don't know, 15 penguins or so. Let us know what you reckon. So she'll count this group, and then this group is far west on her little sheet. She'll write down, say, 15 penguins, and then she'll get her binoculars back up and she'll count the next group. And she'll do that for 50 minutes. So just under an hour, because that's how long the penguins have been counted for all of those years. So she'll count them for 50 minutes, and then at the end she'll add up all of those numbers, and that's how we got our 1,470 penguins last night, adding up all of those different groups. So that's how we count the penguins. It's not anything too fancy, but we do have another couple little devices that help us see how many penguins come in along certain pathways. So you guys might have heard me talk before about our penguin weighbridge. So we do have 2 penguin weighbridges and 1 platform here on the south coast at our penguin colony. And what a little penguin weighbridge is a little platform that we put in a penguin pathway. And as the penguins walk over that a little platform, it actually scans their microchip and it weighs them. So all of our penguins in our study sites, are located behind that pathway. So hopefully the penguins in the study site will cross over the weighbridge, and those penguins in the study areas will have a microchip in the back of their neck. So like one you'll have in your pet cat or a dog, so that we know which penguin is which. So when they go through the weighbridge and it scans them, it kind of gives us their name. But it's not a name like Philip or Patrick, the penguin. It's a series of letters and numbers like 6, 3, 4, 2, A, B, 1. Something like that. That will be the name of these little penguins. And that will tell us who exactly that penguin is. And we can see how much they weighed when they went out to sea in the morning. We can see, where have they all gone? We can see how much they weighed when they came back. And we can actually work out how much weight they've gained. So try and see how much food they've been able to catch while they've been out at sea. So that weighbridge tells us lots of really interesting things, and it can help us out. Oh, I'm going to switch to the Penguin Highway now. We have a group finally coming around the corner. Their little fat bellies. So we can use the weighbridge for many things as well. So you might have heard me talk about our little penguin tracking project. So tracking the penguins to see where they're going. And when we do that, there they go, they're in a hurry tonight. When we track a penguin, we want to know when that penguin comes home so we can collect the tracker off it. So something that I can do if I'm feeling lazy and I don't want to go out and check the burrow, I can look at the data from the weighbridge and see if that penguin has crossed the weighbridge tonight. And then if I know it's there, I can go out and remove the tracker from the penguin. So the weighbridge is really useful, and it gives us lots of data about our penguins without having to even go out and interfere with them at all. And they're quite happy to walk through that little weighbridge. So we do have one of those here at the Penguin Parade behind the skybox where Heather is counting from. I'll go back to the main camera now. And we do also have another one a little bit further along the south coast, and that's in a completely natural area. So those penguins have all natural burrows. They're never disturbed by people. So it's quite interesting. We can actually compare how our penguins are doing in those different areas. And we can see that our penguins here at the Penguin Parade, they do just as well at our penguins at that other side. And that one, we call that Radio Tracking Bay down along the south coast. Oh, here we go. Here's another group of penguins. Another little group. We didn't hear at all how many were in that first group, Michael.
Yep, 46 in the first group.
Fantastic, 46. I think they joined back together because there definitely wasn't 46 in that first little bit, unless I'm really terrible at counting.
Group. I think it was the second group.
The second group,
yeah.
46, perfect. I was like, I couldn't have been that off good. 46, did anybody guess 46 for that second group? Good counting, Heather. Thank you for letting us know the numbers. And these guys, again, they're looking a little bit cautious, just like that first group there. They're going to swim around a little bit, making sure the coast is clear before they come across the beach. And it looks like some of the rocks are a bit more exposed tonight as our tide's a little bit lower than what it has been. And you'll notice that the penguins will try and stick to the rocks where they are a little bit better camouflaged, trying to hide just in case there are any predators around. And if they do get a fright and they run back in the water, some of them might even just lie down in the rocks if they're not feeling like they're quick enough to get away. So they do like the rocks as much as it might look like they struggle a little bit climbing up over the rocks. But they're surprisingly good little climbers, our little penguins. They have sharp claws to help them grip onto the rocks. And even though they have their funny waddle, they have quite a low center of gravity, which gives them really good balance for climbing over rocks. And they can jump to about their own body height. So they're quite good at clambering over these rocks, these little penguins, which hopefully they'll show us in a moment. Our penguins are quite nervous tonight. They're not in any hurry to head home, which is surprising because we are in our breeding season. So these guys probably do have eggs or chicks to come back and look after. So we will have a group of a mixture of males and females that come in each night. It will be different penguins each and every night, which is why we do get different penguin numbers. Oh, they're running back. And if they have eggs, their partners will be in the burrow, sitting on their eggs, waiting for their husband or wife to come in and swap over with them. And they'll be doing that every 3 to 5 days. So I'm actually tracking 2 penguins at the moment who are sitting. Oh, there's another big raft coming in. We'll zoom out so we can see them join these guys. So I am tracking 2 penguins at the moment who are incubating eggs, and one of them left on Wednesday, one of them left on Friday, and those guys aren't back yet. So they might even be coming in tonight. So do keep your eyes peeled if you see a penguin with a little backpack on its back. It actually looks like a little white eraser, probably about that big, that we attach to the penguin's feathers on their back to see where they're going. So they'll be out for somewhere between 3 to 5 days usually. We have had some penguins this season, because food is so close, only going out for 1 or 2 days. and sometimes they can go out for up to a week while their partner's sitting at home, sitting on the eggs, waiting for them to come back. So these penguins might have been out for a few days, or they might have chicks. So if their chicks are less than 2 or 4 weeks old, then one of the parents might be staying at home, looking after those little chicks, keeping them warm, keeping them fed, waiting for their partner to swap with them. But a lot of them at the moment are a bit older, so they're past that 4 weeks old mark where they're able to be left home alone. So those penguin parents will be coming in almost every day to feed those big needy chicks. They grow so fast and can take about 14 kilograms of fish over 8 to 10 weeks to raise a penguin chick to be fully grown. By the time they head out, they're usually bigger than their parents. So it does take a lot of work, and they might be coming in each night and going out again each morning to get enough food to raise those chicks. So if you see some penguins with some big fat bellies, they might just be bringing back lots of food for their chicks, and they can bring back about a third of their own body weight to feed their chicks. And that's something we can actually see on the weighbridge. We can see a penguin come in at night with a nice full belly, and then it might go out even a couple hours later, go straight back out to sea, and it's lost all that weight because it's come back just to feed its chicks. I know our resident penguin biologist, Dr. Andre, likes to call penguins walking fridges. Oh, something's frightened them. They're running back. I can't see what it was. Also, little walking fridges, they're moving so fast. And he calls them that because they can actually change the acidity level of their stomach, so they're not digesting the food too much before they come and regurgitate it for their chicks. I don't know what's going on here, but most of our penguins have been frightened back into the water. You can see that some of them are still standing their ground. They're hiding there in the rocks. There's a few brave penguins that are going to keep going across, but most of them have gotten a fright. So it only takes a couple of scared penguins to get a fright and run back, and the majority of them will go, oh no, they must have seen something scary. We're all going to run back. And as you can see, we also have some brave penguins who are going to keep soldiering on across the beach. I don't know which ones to watch. I'll try and watch both. See if these guys can catch up, because I do want to be in as big a group as possible. Well, these guys don't care. They're not waiting for anybody. It's another nice little easy group we can try and count. There's about 16 in that group that I can count quickly. And while you guys are trying to count, then we might grab another question from Michael. Do you have another question for us?
Yeah, we got plenty of questions.
Plenty of questions. That's
Plenty
good
of
to
questions.
see.
Got one bit of a challenging one.
Ooh, okay. I'll
So,
give it my best.
This is about all penguins. It's kind of not just to do with our little blue penguins. So someone asked, do all the penguins huck, and do they huck the same?
Oh,
That's a pretty hard one.
that's definitely a tough question. And you know what? I don't know the answer. Do you have any idea?
No,
Michael?
I think someone's just been looking it up, and they're just YouTubing or Googling penguin noises. So there's lots of different sounds that they make. So
that's interesting because our little penguins have about 12 different kinds of calls they make. And I've never seen another species of penguin in the wild, to be honest. I've seen them in an aquarium, but I've never seen them out in the wild to hear them making noises. But because our penguins make that hucking noise as a gathering call to group together when they're out at sea, I would guess that it's probably not something that other penguins do.
we'll have to look that one
we'll
up,
have
I
to
think.
find out. But penguins tend to forage individually, at least our little penguins. And I believe our little penguins are the only ones that have to actually group together to cross the beach, because they are so small. They're the only ones that really have to worry about those birds of prey, those predators on land. So I don't see much need for bigger species of penguin to have to call out and group together in the sea. So my guess would be that they maybe don't huck, but they might have a similar noise that they make for other reasons.
Yep,
We will have to find out
Fair enough.
and get back to you guys.
And so, and also with that, in regards to this hucking noise, so do they make the hucking noise on the land, and can you hear it when you're like at the penguin parade?
So you don't usually hear a penguin huck on land. Occasionally it happens, and I like to think that sometimes a penguin will huck on land if it gets a little bit lost or confused. It'll just go, hey guys, where are you? But you don't really see them hucking on land. It's really a noise they make in the water, and it travels quite clearly over the water, which I would say is why they use that noise. When they're on land, they have a range of different calls that they'll make. You might have heard us demonstrate some of those. So we have like the trill, which is it can be kind of a bit of a warning or a bit of a song. The males will seem to try and impress female penguins. You definitely hear them make a noise similar to a huck that's more like a it's a bit of a warning. Not so much a huck, but kind of a warning.
Yep.
I've definitely had penguins hiss at me when they're not happy. They'll just do a bit of a warning hiss. What other noises can you think of, Michael? There's definitely more.
Yep. But that's not making a noise.
That's not a vocalization,
No.
but yes, you definitely will hear. If you could hear Michael kind of clapping, that noise is something you'll hear when there are some special penguin cuddles happening. So I've definitely been out in the penguin colony. I've heard and known that something is going on in one of the burrows nearby, because that is the noise of the males flapping their flippers against the females as they try and keep their balance for those special penguin cuddles. So that's quite a funny noise.
Thank you. Some of them, I hear they sound like cats or little children's, screaming. Like,
Can you demonstrate?
not really.
That's all right.
Maybe
yeah.
like that. Yeah.
That wasn't quite the one you were saying, but I do know what you mean, Michael. And the when they're just a little grumpy. What's going on here? It looks like some of these penguins are back at their burrows, and we might even have some penguin chicks. Let me try and get a better look. They're a little bit far away, but can you see those two on the right with the brown fluff on their backs? I think they have, maybe it's just, no, sorry. It's just a reflection. But I did think I saw a penguin chick, maybe not. But there is a burrow right here next to that hose. You can see that penguin there. He probably lives right in that burrow. We do have a number of burrows under the boardwalks, and these are actually some of our research burrows. So that little penguin going in there could very well have his own little microchip in the back of his neck with his own little name. Let's go back around, see if there's any more penguins coming up along the highway. Whoa, sorry, I hope I'm not making you seasick. Trying to get the camera around the other way. I might just swap cameras. I won't put you through that anymore. So we were mentioning the other species of penguin, and there are 18 different species of penguins. So our penguins, we do call them little penguins. That is the name of their species because they are the smallest of all 18 species of penguin. Because they do only grow to be about 33 centimeters tall, and they only weigh about 1 kilo. And they are so small because it does get so warm here in Australia. So little penguins are small so that they can lose heat quicker. So they have more of a surface area to volume ratio, which is what we call it. So there's more surface compared to how big they are, which helps them lose heat and stay cool. Whereas when you think of penguins, you might think of the big emperor penguins that live in Antarctica, and they're the biggest species of penguin. And they are so big because they need to stay warm. So the opposite problem of our little penguins, they need to be nice and big to keep in all of that heat when they're out in Antarctica. And I think a few nights ago, we did have someone asking what the second smallest species of penguin was. And we did find out that that one was the Galapagos penguin. And they're actually the only species of penguin that goes north of the equator. So all of our other 18 species of penguin will live in the southern hemisphere, and the Galapagos penguins, they sometimes swim over the equator and come back. So they also need to be small because they also live somewhere quite warm. And after we did have that question on the live stream, when Jordan was running the live stream, she came home and told me that, and we had a little bit of a competition to see who could guess the penguins in size order. And it was very, very difficult. So I want to ask you guys, how many different species of penguin do you actually know? There are 18 species, and I know it took me a while to learn all of them. So let us know, how many species of penguin can you list, or have a little bit of a competition at home? How many different species of penguin do you know, and do you have any idea where they might live? Oh, sorry, I've missed those penguins on the highway. They're moving so quick. I'll have to wait for the next group. I'll go back to the main camera and see what's going on over here. Lots of preening. So over here at the resting rocks, or the salon, we have a few names for this little area where these penguins come up across the beach. They feel safe, so they like to stop and have a little bit of a rest, preening their feathers, making sure they're looking good. Oh, we do only have 5 minutes left. Michael's just let me know. So while we're watching these penguins preening their feathers, making sure they're looking good, we might grab another question. I'll try and get through a few more questions before we do have to go. Have you got any more tricky ones for me, Michael?
I do. Yeah,
Oh.
this is a good one.
Okay.
And this is about penguin. Do you know much about penguins' feet? So how big are the feet, and how many claws do they have? Or maybe you could just tell us a bit about penguin feet.
Penguin feet. Okay, let's see. I'll do my best. We haven't talked a lot about penguin feet.
No.
I think we might have had the question about how many toes they have, and they do have 3 little toes at the front and 1 little one at the back. And I can tell you they have very sharp claws, because I have been scratched by penguins before. They don't just have a super sharp beak. They have sharp claws and really strong flippers that they're not afraid to hit you with if you do have to pick one up. And they do have very tough feet. So I would say that the feet of a penguin are definitely the toughest part of a penguin. And they are, you can see bright pink on top, but they're actually dark underneath. So
they match their camouflage.
They do. It matches their counter coloration, even on their feet, even on their beak. So we can see the fronts of their feet. I was trying to see one that might be facing the other way. We might have to wait for some to come past on the highway and see if you can spot the backs of their feet as they're waddling along. Here's some on the highway. I'll try and follow these guys around. Yeah, we've never really talked that much about penguin feet, so we'll try and get a little bit of a look. We'll watch these guys as they go past. You can see their black little sharp claws there, and their little pink feet. Oh, you're moving too quick. Let's see if we can spot the backs of their feet. There we go. You can kind of see it looks like they just have mud on the bottom of their feet, but that's actually the color of their feet. Their feet are dark underneath. There we go, to help them camouflage in the water. And penguin feet are actually what we use to get a penguin out of a natural penguin burrow. So it's quite easy in the wooden boxes you might have seen around the place. If we need to take a penguin out of a burrow, or if it's out like this and we need to catch it, we just grab it around the body and hold its head to support it, and hold it under the belly to pick it up. But if we have to get a penguin out of a natural burrow, you can't always grab its head and grab its tummy. You actually have to grab a penguin by its foot, give it a little bit of a wiggle and a jiggle to get the penguin out of the burrow. Which might sound a little bit harsh, but the penguins have such tough, strong feet, they barely even feel it if you're touching their feet. So it is the that sounded really mean. But it is the ideal way to control a penguin and get it out of its burrow. When it's trying to attack you and bite you, you can just grab its little foot and give it a bit of a wiggle.
And this is why we have these man-made burrows, to make it a little bit easier for you, isn't it?
Definitely. So we do have a number of I'll switch back over to this camera. We do have a number of research burrows that are wooden boxes, and they are fantastic. So easy to check on the penguins. You can even scan the penguins with their microchips from outside the burrows, but we have a number of natural sites, and those ones are the fun ones to check, where you're lying down in the mud, putting your hand inside a burrow, hoping there's a penguin in there and not a snake. So it's definitely a lot easier to use those wooden boxes. But we want to make sure our penguins are doing well in all of our sites. And we do have usually between 7 and 11 different sites that we'll check depending on the time of the year and what's going on. So it tells us a lot about the penguins in all the different areas of the colony, because our penguins, even the different areas along the south coast, forage in different places, and our penguins on the north shore are actually in a completely different stage of breeding. So while a lot of our penguins here at the Penguin Parade had chicks who were fledging, who were heading out and to fend for themselves, our penguins on the North Shore, on the other side of the peninsula, they were actually a little bit behind. They were still incubating eggs. So it's really interesting to see at all these different sites and all these areas around the same colony, because it is one big colony, that they are still eating in different places, and they're in different stages of breeding. So they're still quite different even within a colony. And then we do have many, many penguin colonies all along the southern coast of Australia that we monitor as well. And they're all doing something different. So our closest penguins to here actually live in St Kilda near the city in Melbourne. And they are, I like to call them fat city penguins, because they never have to leave Port Phillip Bay for food. So they don't travel far at all. They just forage within the bay. And I've actually heard that they've developed shorter flippers, and they're on average a bigger weight than our penguins here, because they don't travel very far. And we do also have little penguins in New Zealand, and there's a different subspecies of little penguin that lives in New Zealand as well. What are you guys doing? You're not gonna come around the corner? No? Okay. We still have streams of penguins coming in on our stream tonight across the rocks. So while we watch these guys, we're almost out of time. We might squeeze in one more question if you have one that I'm not going to ramble too much on about, Michael.
A quick one.
A quick one. Sounds good.
So do these penguins ever get lost on the land?
Ooh, okay. So penguins don't usually get lost. They do have quite a good sense of direction, and they find their way just like you would find your way if you go for a walk around where you live. They remember pathways and landmarks to find where they're going. And I'm sure if you walk to the shops, you always walk the same way. Even if there's a few different ways, you'll always go that same way to the shops, and you remember exactly where to go. And that's how the penguins find their burrows. So they usually go in the exact same way. Each time they come home, they know exactly where they're going. But when they might get lost is if something changes. So penguins can get a little bit confused if there is some change. And it may be man-made, or it may just be there's been a lot of high tides and maybe some of the sand is washed away, or maybe there's been a bit of erosion and their regular path has washed away. Then they just have to adapt and find a new way. So they will get a little bit lost. Sometimes they get a bit confused when something is different on their path home. Like if you're driving to the shops and you always turn right at that big IKEA on the corner, and then one day the IKEA is ripped down and you miss your turn. That's what I imagine it would be like for the little penguins. If something changes, they have to learn a new way, learn new directions, which they can do, but it will take them a little while to get the hang of, because they are creatures of habit. They take that same path, they remember those same landmarks to follow each and every night. So if something changes, they get a little bit lost, they get confused, but they'll almost always they'll find their way home. And we don't interfere with our penguins if they're looking lost. We just leave them, and they will eventually figure it out. They're quite smart, they're quite adaptable, and they'll always manage to find their way home. And they'll live in the same area their whole life, so they'll know that area quite well. So yeah, that's a good question, that one. You might sometimes see a penguin, especially on the highway, looking a bit lost. And sometimes a penguin that looks lost might just be a fledgling. So it might be a young penguin who's never headed out to sea before, or it might be his first time coming back after spending a year out at sea. And that's when they might be a little bit confused. They've never been to the ocean. All is nice and brand new, and they're just figuring it out for the first time. But generally, our penguins are very good at knowing where they are going. Alrighty, I think we're almost out of time now. So we might just watch these little guys as they go over the rocks. And I do want to thank all of you so much for tuning into another night of live Penguin TV. You might have even seen us on the news tonight. We did have our story about little Geordie the penguin, who we were able to rescue with from something that was stuck around his neck. We're still trying to work out what that was. So we'll hopefully be able to get back to you next week. We're going to put it under the microscope to figure out what it is. But we were on the news. Everyone got to see our rescue of little Geordie and him being released back into the colony, which is very exciting. So definitely check that out if you haven't seen that yet. And we do hope to see you all back here again tomorrow night. You'll have Sky and Stephen for the next week, and then we'll be back with you the week after that. And remember, if you do want to help out our wildlife here on Phillip Island and our gorgeous little penguins, you can come and visit us now, and you can also donate to the Penguin Foundation or adopt a penguin. And as I said before, one other little thing you can do to protect our penguins is if you have a pet cat, keeping your cat indoors protects our wildlife, keeping it contained to your property and making sure it's desexed, so we're not having as many feral cats out in the wild affecting our wildlife like our little penguins. And there's lots of little things we can do to help protect our wildlife. So thank you so much for joining us tonight. We hope to see you guys again. Do you want to come in and say goodbye to everyone?
Goodbye.
Michael?
Thanks for watching, everyone, and thanks for all your questions. We look forward to seeing you again in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, we'll see you guys next time. We'll send you out with a hug.
Or we'll see you out on the boardwalks.
That's true. We're loving seeing people out on the boardwalks. Oh, and I should have said that Heather was very excited to see Harry and Charlotte last night, who were regular Wattle watchers and came to visit us at the Penguin Parade last night. So all of you Wattle watchers, we're loving seeing you here at the Penguin Parade. If you do recognise us, let us know. Give us a hug. And we do hope to see you all very, very soon. Okay.
Good
Thanks,
night.
guys. See ya.